Welcome to the Writer's Life, the place where you get the sight, sound, smells, taste of my particular writer's life. Are you getting annoyed at that yet? My poor parents had to put up with me banging the drums every day for hours. Bang, 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 bang. Anyway, smash the like button, hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss even one exciting video, and don't forget to like them. No, subscribe rather. Just did an article on hate crime spiking among the homeless. It's getting to be a real problem, I guess. It was not a pleasant article to write. Actually, I'm ghosting it for somebody. But anyway, that's not what I'm here to talk about. So I wanted to talk about sales and publishers and which publishers can sell more for you, which can't, basically. And the reason this came up is because I've been talking to a colleague of mine who works at. Wait, somebody's calling me in. I gotta decline it here. I'll call you back, Mayor. A colleague of mine who works at the New York Times and I we're talking this weekend, and he hadn't spoken with me in a while. He did an article on me about 8 years almost ago now, 7 years ago. Anyway, but we were talking about the general situation in publishing and things like that, and how much things have changed and what hasn't changed or whatever. And I pointed out to him that like a lot of the authors who I was publishing with back in 2012 are basically gone now or retired. All of the editors and marketing people whom I was working with the exception of maybe one or two, are gone, all gone. My agent's still around, but things have changed a lot, and so like we just got talking about like legacy publishers, for instance, like Delacorte and stuff like that. Like I got a big deal with them, and they didn't move many books for me, you know. And I tried hard to market that first book with them. I even hired like I forget her, Lucy Goldberg. Does that make sense? Anyway, some huge firm in New York, you know, to do like a marketing campaign. It cost like $12,000 back then. I can't imagine what they cost now. And they didn't do squat, you know. Shouldn't do squat. But then again, that book came out with another publisher, like after I got the rights back, like 5 years later, 6 years later, whatever it was, and it sold like 100,000 copies right away because they had some really good marketing ideas. And this was a small press, like a maverick small press, who has since gone under for various reasons, which is a shame because I would have worked with them in one capacity or another if they had continued to do their good work, but something happened there. And then there's other small publishers I work with, small to medium, who, unless you do all the work, you're not going to sell a single book. I mean, not a single book. It's just impossible, you know. And then there's like the Amazon imprints. And I don't want to say this is like the dirty little secret because it's not a secret at all. But a lot of authors want to get a contract with one of the Amazon imprints because, for obvious reasons, they're attached to Amazon, right? And if they want to, they can sell the crap out of your book. If they don't want to sell the crap out of your book, they can tank it. And that's just the truth. It's the truth. And the evidence is when. Now, I did 9 books with them, plus other things. Other projects where I got paid well for them. So no complaints on my end. I was treated pretty well, and I sold. When I include the Kindle First book that I had with them, you know, I moved close to 500,000 units for them. But the last book didn't move much at all, and they always remember the last book. It's never what you did before. It's always the last one you had with them. So anyway, um, but any author who like publishes one or two books with them might do really well at first, and then when they don't want any more books and you have to go out to another publisher, I guarantee you the sales aren't even nearly as good because they just don't. Other publishers don't have the marketing capacity that the Amazon imprints do, and that's why everybody wants to get at least one contract with an Amazon imprint. The thing you give up with an Amazon imprint, however, is you're not going to be published in the independent bookstores or like the big Barnes and Nobles. But you know, you're strictly Amazon. And every now and then someone will post a picture. They're like, "Oh, look, my Amazon book is like published at like Powell's or something." I was published at Powell's too when I was publishing almost exclusively with Amazon imprints. But they're that's the exception to the rule. Trust me on that. It's the exception to the rule. I remember many times walking into independent bookstores and like, maybe you should be carrying like the Remains, for instance, right? And the snotty little guy behind the counter would look it up and be like, I don't think so. Because anybody who publishes exclusively like with Amazon or Amazon imprints is dog shit. And that's the way they think of you. And it's been about 5 years since I've published a book with an Amazon imprint. And it's taken me all that time to regain the trust of a lot of independent bookstores. And if it weren't for supply chain issues, I'd be doing better with the bookstores, I'm convinced, because the books have done okay, and they've all come out in hardcover and been reviewed, so all that stuff. But we rely now more than ever in this post-pandemic world. Do I get to call it post-pandemic yet? On online sales. So, but with segueing into my independent publishing company, Bear Media. I control all that stuff, and because I put out so much work, I'm able to sell a decent amount of books. I'm not quite up there with Dean Wesley Smith at this point, where I'm putting out like one short story a day, which I find is incredible. He's 71 years old. Not only is he working on a full novel this month, but he's also putting out a short story per day. That's just like insane. It's crazy. And he's doing it totally part-time. He'll be like, he'll blog about it, and he'll say like, last night it was like 10 o'clock, I was ready to crash, and like, I forgot to write my short story. So he'll go to his writing desk and spend 3 hours and pound out a short story. Boom. I love that. I just love that kind of thing, because to me it just all represents control, and no one's telling you what to do, or you're not at the mercy of someone at a publishing house, say an Amazon imprint, who doesn't like you or whatever, and they're not going to move your books for you anymore or whatever. But the good thing about the Amazon imprints still, I'll tell you this much, is unlike any other publisher I've worked with, like they have the Remains in 2 promos next month, and that book is like 10 years old, so they do still, they'll if they believe in a book, they'll be like, okay, time to resurrect this one a little bit. So that's cool, Anyway, I hope all this made a little sense. It's all a part of the writer's life, isn't it? Sales. I hate the sales part. I hate the business end of things. But you gotta pay attention to it if you want to make a living or whatever. So anyway, there you go. I hope that made some sense. All right, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Ciao, ciao.